welcome to Mini Fights. I'm your host Brian, and my opponent is Andy. Today we're playing Struggle for the Cube Continues, and Infinity Formula Goes Missing. Andy has priority, so he's going to kick things off by climbing his Venom to the top of the Eternal Games building, and then advancing his short distance up to the edge there. That is going to put him within range 1 of the cube fragment that's on the ground level, so he is going to capture that and end his activation. And back to me, my Red Skull is going to do kind of a classic Red Skull activation. He's going to Cosmic Cube, which will give him 3 power. He's going to roll the dice, and if he rolls skulls, he's going to take damage, which he does not. So no damage taken, gains 3 power, does spend an action to do that. He's going to show his mastery of the cube by teleporting forward Modok to the top of this size 4 dump truck. And he's going to then climb up onto the dump truck himself, standing right next to his pal Modok. His Captain America is just going to advance forward. He's going to check the range 2 range for bodyguard. He's got it. Checks a couple other ranges, make sure that Modok can't zap him from where he is, and ends his action right there. Back to me. The Cabal Iron Man is going to advance close enough to pick up that cube fragment. He's going to capture that, and he's going to advance again. And that second advance is going to put him on the serum canister, but critically have his back against the traffic light post. You'll see why in a minute. Andy's Shuri is going to advance. She's going to end up kind of in the same position as Iron Man, within range to capture the cube fragment and stand on the serum canister. She's well within her range 5 for the Panther gauntlets, so he makes that attack on my Iron Man. The attack can only deal 1 damage, which it definitely does, but the important part for me is that Iron Man does not get pushed back due to being pressed up against the traffic light there. So back to my activation, Crossbones is going to lumber forward and scoop up the cube fragment, and due to his slow speed, really doesn't have much left to do, so he is going to just sidestep over and hang out behind this orange Nissan GTR, which will let him hold the serum canister with a little bit of cover. Andy's Black Widow is going to mirror Crossbones' action with a little more style and grace. She's going to walk up her long speed and scoop up the cube fragment as well, pocket it, and she's going to hold the serum canister there, getting a little bit of protection from the Jersey barriers. So my Okoye is going to advance, and the original intent is to sort of put her between Crossbones and Modok. I then realized that she's got a range 4 attack, and I want to hit Venom with it. So I kind of nudge her back, and she's still able to protect Modok from where she is. And she's going to fire off the ghostly blue energy from her spear at long range, and end up dealing 3 damage to Venom. His energy defense is very poor. That's really his weakness, and you want to hit him outside of his range 3 where he can sort of counterattack you. And back to Andy. He's going to go ahead and move Captain Marvel up. And I thought she was just going to stop there and hold that serum canister with Widow. But he's going to end up actually aggressively moving her forward towards Crossbones, which is kind of a game of chicken, frankly. They both can hurt each other very badly. It's sort of a just who gets to swing first situation. My activation, the attack I'm rolling here is my Modok Psionic Blasting Venom. Cap does bodyguard this and rolls a really awesome roll. I end up doing a total of 3 damage to him though, because I rolled really awesome too. Second attack ends up being a Doomsday Chair into Venom, which bodyguarding doesn't really kind of make sense. I can hit them both either way, so he doesn't bodyguard. I deal 1 to Venom, and the hit on Cap actually deals none due to Vibranium Shield. I put bleed on him, and you can see, I'm doing some rerolls and things, Modok stuff. Ultimately, not a lot of total damage. So I think I ended up doing about 4 damage total, not including the bleed. Pretty subpar Modok activation. In retrospect, there's stuff I could have done better. I probably could have walked Venom towards me, or away from Cap at least, to get him out of bodyguard range. That would have been pretty key, and I didn't do that. And that's round 1. Andy's going to score 5 to my 4. We both have 2 of the canisters. He has 3 cube fragments to my 2. Going to be a big power up here. We have quite a bit of extra power from the canisters and from the cube fragments. You can see from my character boards there's a lot of power out there. Andy is going to have first activation, and before he decides who to activate, he is going to burn multiple tactics cards. So first up is going to be an advanced R&D from Shuri. That's going to push 3 power from her, 1 each to Captain Marvel, Captain America, and Venom. And we're zooming in on the card there. And then the second ability he's going to use, second tactics card, is going to be Patch Up. Patch Up allows you to spend power to heal and remove damage from a character. So he's going to patch up by spending 3 from Captain America, taking all the damage I'd put on Venom off of him. It's an irritating proposition because Venom can already heal himself. I was hoping to stack a little more damage on him, and the patch up just kind of puts him back to fresh and really undoes a lot of what I did last turn. But there's an opportunity cost there. He did burn 2 cards, so something to be said about that. Venom's going to walk off the building to there, and he's eyeing up my Okoye for a Clintar Rage. He's going to end up throwing her into this Jersey barrier, dealing a point of damage to her. The damage is secondary, however, to the fact that she cannot bodyguard my Modok. So, smart play by Andy. Removing bodyguards is key. It's what I didn't do last round, and he's doing it the correct way. At this point, he's got enough power to do a We Are Venom on Modok, which is his best attack. It's also the one that heals him. It's a 7-die physical. I end up rolling 2, and because he ended up rolling a few wilds, he ended up only getting 2 as well, so no damage to Modok. So I got pretty lucky there. And one last thing that Venom's going to end up doing, he is going to web pull my Red Skull off of the dump truck directly towards him like that. That bleed token is on Venom. That is from the earlier Doomsday Chair attack. And back to me, I'm going to do my usual thing of sort of hunting across the various matchups on the field and trying to find which is the most favorable or which one I need to get an activation out of a guy before I think he's going to die. And that is clearly going to be Crossbones here, face up with Captain Marvel. He is within range 3, which is pretty awesome for me. That's going to let me do an overpower. Oh, the dice gods smile on me, and I end up doing 4 damage with that overpower. And proccing the throw. You can see the throw ends up, I kind of get it at an angle where she kind of comes towards me, hits that bench, which is going to break the bench because it's size 1, deal another point of damage to her, so she has taken 5 damage at this point. Got 1 HP left, or 1 stamina left, I should say, and that'll be the end of her, for this turn at least. So Crossbones gets to place himself within the range 1 of Danvers, which is what that little kind of move was there. And I do a second overpower, which I really flubbed the dice on, but luckily Andy really flubs his as well, and I end up dealing the point of damage and triggering the throw. I believe I cannot actually trigger the throw, however, because it has to occur after resolution. I think that's the case. I may have just actually refrained from doing it. To be honest, I don't remember. Either way, though, she ends up dazed where she stands right there. Shuri activates. She's going to advance off of the point, which is interesting. But she gets her range 5 on Modok. And the range 5 is going to be for her Panther Gauntlet attack, which she's going to execute right now. Modok's got 3 energy defense. She ends up rolling enough hits that even with some power and re-rolling, I'm likely not going to get it down to 0. And since she can only do the 1 point of damage, she does the point of damage to Modok, and then does the automatic push, which pushes him off of the dump truck. Red Skull activates, and he has enough power to unleash the Cosmic Cube at Captain America. It's a pretty big energy attack, and Cap's 4 energy doesn't end up doing enough, and he ends up getting dazed. So you can see he's dazed there. Red Skull is going to end up Cosmic Cubing for power, taking a point of damage because I roll a skull, but ending up gaining 3. And he's going to use that 3 to master the cube, my Modok forward. Now, Modok got shoved off at range short, which is just a hair longer than the 2, so he's not able to place himself back up on the truck, which would have been really nice for my later plans. But ultimately, still advantageous to get pushed forward. Back to Andy, he's only got 1 activation left, which is his Widow. She sort of nudges a little and ends her activation. And he's activated out. I've got 3 more models to activate. So model number 1 is going to be Okoye. She is going to advance to the left side canister, getting on shield guard range there onto bodyguard range. And she throws her energy spear range attack at Venom, ends up dealing a point of damage to him. Cabal Iron Man is going to fly up on top of the bugle there, staying within the 1 inch of the canister. He takes a Friday AI augmented repulsor blast at Shuri, and it's honestly just not a great roll, and end up doing 1 damage to her. Alright, Modok, let's save this round. Modok uses his very powerful throw on a daily bugle that was kind of behind him, but Andy plays the tactics card, Brace for Impact, and it ends up just stopping all the damage that could have potentially occurred there. Modok then just going to go ahead and do a Sonic Blast on him. Now this Sonic Blast was looking to do, I think 3 damage, which would be enough to daze Venom. Andy makes great use of the upgrades ability on Shuri, rerolls 3 of the dice, and ends up taking a net of 0 damage, which gets me no power back from Sonic Blast 2. So I end up doing it again. Another not super great attack roll. His defense roll is not great either, but he ends up using another upgrade roll, rolls it into a wild, nets a point of damage. So Modok, using his throw and 2 Sonic Blasts, does 1 total damage to Venom. Really kind of a disastrous end to my round, I feel. Here comes some insult to injury. Venom uses his superpower that allows him to strike back outside of his activation after being attacked. Deals 3 damage to my Modok. So yeah, pretty good, Venom. He's really shaping up to be a meta-defining piece. And that's going to wrap up round 2. Andy's going to end up scoring 4, as am I. It's going to make the score a total of 8 to 9. Andy with the 9, me with the 8. Here's the beginning of the round. We're all powered up. Andy's kind of deliberating on who to activate first because he has priority. Ends up being Captain Marvel, and she's going into binary form. She has a lot of power on her from being dazed last turn. She spends 4 to go into binary and spends 3 to do a Danvers special. That's going to throw Okoye away from Crossbones, which takes away the bodyguard. And then she hits Crossbones with an energy blast, which is, of course, his weakest defense. And as we were talking about earlier, they're just kind of the each other's kryptonite, and he ends up being dazed. She turns her attention to my Okoye and does the same thing. Okoye ends up with 1 defense. Danvers ends up with, I think, 4 or 5 total, which is enough to deal the remaining 3 to Okoye, dazing her as well. So, pretty brutal swing right at the beginning of the round. Really good work out of Captain Marvel. And my Modok's going to activate now. He's going to Psionic Blast Venom. Please, let's get Venom. This has been brutal trying to kill this dude. So as you can see by the roll, it's not going to work. I'm going to end up having to spend 4 of my power, all my power that I had on me, to reroll 4 dice to attempt to get the 1 damage in on Venom that I needed here. This is a pretty critical role. Venom's got a Cosmic Cube Fragment, and, you know, he's Venom. Like, you want to daze him, because if you don't, he just ends up healing himself, and you're in for a bad time. Even worse than I'm already having here. And after the rerolls, I did daze him and pick up the Cube Fragment. With a second action point, he's going to walk forward with 2 within 2 of Red Skull. No reason. And then, before the activation ends, my Iron Man is going to do a R&D. The R&D card is going to put a power on both Modok and Red Skull. And he just takes a really quick action with Black Widow, just sits tight on the back left point there. So back to me. My Iron Man is going to Friday AI, Repulsor Blast Shuri. Ends up dealing only a point of damage. So it looks like we're probably going to have to do it again. She is holding a Cosmic Cube Fragment. I was really hoping to just zap her with this one and then walk forward and take the fragment. That's not in the cards here. So we got to load up a second one. Second blast is a little bit more vicious. And it's going to end up dealing I think it's the 2 damage we need at this point to take down Shuri, because she's not within, bodyguard range, and her upgrades, defense, rerolls don't work on her, and so everybody else, she's actually pretty vulnerable. So she's going to daze, and I'm going to, after a little deliberation, I'm going to decide to put the Cosmic Cube Fragment close to me there on that dumpster. And that's going to be Iron Man's activation. Cap is going to take a very simple, but ultimately very powerful activation. He's going to advance forward. He's going to scoop up the Cosmic Cube Fragment, like you do when somebody drops one and leaves it for you. And then he is going to walk back and take the outside right serum canister. It ends his activation, but it's going to score him 2 VPs ultimately. Back to me, I'm going to use Cosmic Invigoration, which ends up spending 2 power off of both Red Skull and Modok. This is going to allow Modok to activate again. It basically removes his activated token. He's going to advance to the left side serum canister to hold it. And he is going to Psionic Blast Danvers. Pretty much the only target in range at this point. And because of her binary form buff, she's rolling 5 dice on defense, and I end up doing zilch. That's going to be the end of Modok's activation. Not the best one, but it did end up scoring me the VP there, and I still have Red Skull to activate. So I activate Red Skull here, and I think, in hindsight, I make a really critical error. I could have double advanced him onto the point that Cap was on, and because Red Skull is healthy and Cap isn't, I would have taken the point from him, which would have been a nice VP swing. Instead, I get up on this dumpster, kind of thinking I want to be within 2 of Iron Man to use Hail Hydra, and throw a Cosmic Blast at Cap, which ends up doing no damage, just costing me a power. So, hindsight's 2020, but I've made a few scenario errors here, and Andy has played his pretty perfectly, so looking a little suspect for me right now. That wraps up round 3. I'm going to score 4. Andy is going to end up scoring 5. The score is going to end up being 14-12 to Andy. And this is very likely, going into round 4, going to be the last round. This particular mission setup scores very quickly. So Andy's first activation, we can see he's kind of just measuring the 90 degrees here for a pull, trying to figure out what like a toward and away looks like. Venom uses his web snare to pull Modok very far forward, actually. Again, pulling him away from Okoye, like a good player does. He picks up that dumpster using Clintar Rage and throws it at Modok. Modok's going to end up taking 2 points of damage from this, as I only end up rolling 1 dodge. And then he's going to use his Tendrils, which is essentially his strike attack, on Modok. And that is going to deal the remaining 3 damage needed to daze him. With his last action, he's going to advance his short distance towards Shuri. And that's it for Venom, and that's a Modok down. I start my activation by patching up my Iron Man from Red Skull. So Red Skull spends 2 to heal Iron Man. Iron Man ends up with basically 3 stamina remaining. And then I'm going to go over here to my crossbones, line up on binary form Danvers a Haymaker Overpower, which is a 8 dice attack that can proc the throw. It ends up dealing, I believe, 3, and throws her into this traffic light here, which is going to do another point of damage. So she's going to have 2 HP remaining at this point. And we're going to swing again. This is going to be a Haymaker Strike, so an 8 dice strike. This is going to deal enough damage to daze her. Andy decides that he should use the Recalibration Matrix Tactics card because she's got the power to use it and maybe it saves her life. In this case, it does not. I still do way more damage than she's got remaining, so Danvers is knocked out of the game. So back to Andy, his Shuri is going to activate, and like she does, she's going to Panther Gauntlets Iron Man. Why change the plan? This is going to end up dealing a point of damage, and of course pushing him off the building and the serum canister. For second action, same thing on Red Skull. No damage this time, but the push is automatic, so he's going to be pushed off into the dump truck. Okoye advances to that position to bodyguard Modok, hopefully next turn, and levels her spear at Venom again and hits him with the energy blast again. You're going to see some rerolling here. I had some crits, and then she gets her built-in native reroll. After I finish modifying my dice, Andy is going to use some Shuri upgrades to reroll 2 defense dice as well. The net ends up being 4 damage to Venom, which almost takes him down. So really good activation out of her, and back to Andy. So I didn't quite catch it on camera. You can see here on the left, though, that Widow is now on the serum canister closest to me. This is a really brilliant move on Andy's part. I'll get more into that later at the sort of the post-game discussion. So back to me. This is my, I believe, my last activation, or no, second to last activation. Cabal Iron Man's going to hop back up on the bugle, and he's going to take a Friday AI Repulsor Blast at Venom, hoping to get the Cosmic Cube Fragment from him. And with a reroll from upgrades, I end up dealing no damage. Didn't bother pushing him, didn't seem super relevant at this point. Andy's cap activates. He doesn't want to leave the point, so he throws a shield at my Iron Man and deals 1 point of damage after the reduction from his Invincible Iron Man rule. And of course some Shuri rerolls, because that's what Andy does. It's been very strong this game. She's influenced a ton of rolls. And he's going to do it again. So my Iron Man at this point has 1 point of stamina left, and that roll is going to do it. So Iron Man's going to be dazed, which is going to mean he cannot capture the serum canister there on the right. So at this point, we start to kind of just stop the game for a second and start tallying up the victory point potential for both of us. I believe Andy is at something like 19 to my 15 at this point. There is no way for Red Skull to create a 4-point swing by any means. If he killed Cap and stood on the canister, I think that's only even like a 3-point swing. So not really much to be done. You know, we kind of double check and make sure I'm not tossing in the towel here a little bit too early, but that is not the case. So I concede to Andy at this point. No point in considering playing. But I did want to talk about just sort of a post-mortem of the game and figure out sort of where things went wrong and where things went right. And I did mention earlier that Andy had run his Black Widow to the canister on my side. And the reason that is a brilliant move is that his Black Widow's just been sitting there on his canister on the left the entirety of the game. That's really, that allowed her to stay healthy, which is a huge deal because my Crossbones was not healthy. And by her running across to mine, he did give up a VP on his side, but he also gained a VP from taking the canister on my side and took one from me because you count healthy characters first at secure objectives. So essentially my cross ones gets zilch, and she essentially created a 2-point swing. So that was something he did really well. All game he played extremely well at pulling a Koye off of the thing she wanted a bodyguard. It was something I messed up on when I was attacking Venom to my detriment. He did not. He used all the movement manipulation stuff to get his target away from her, and really, she literally never bodyguarded the entire game. And then the last thing that I thought he did a really great job of was understanding the pace of this particular mission and how fast it is, and making sure that he never once did a move that wasn't to score him VPs in some fashion. The only thing he did that kind of I thought was potentially a risky move to give up VPs was he walked Shuri forward at that one point to push Modok off the dump truck, but I think ultimately a better move, because Modok, who can attack twice and use all his superpowers without having to spend movement on walking, is a very strong Modok, right? And I ended up having to use resources to try to push him back forward. So I think Andy just basically played this one to near perfection, and I did not. I made a couple glaring scenario errors, and it's nice to see Andy win one here. He's a really good player. He just has been, all the games so far that we've recorded, his dice have been so miserable that it's just been really hard to come back from. But he really got to flex his muscle on this one, and read the mission perfectly and crushed me pretty well. So great job, Andy. And that's going to be it for us for this one. That's our 4th video. I think I am implementing a couple new graphics in this one, so hopefully you guys like them. If you don't see any new graphics in this one, never mind. Maybe that'll be video 5. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks to everybody who watched, and like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Thanks.